10 people fell from the tower, the rope was cut and all 10 people fell to death. The second set of duels was also selected. It's Lee's team against the team around him. This team is also all men, they looked contemptuous and Lee was bound to die. But in the elevator, the old man suddenly returned to his mind. Tell everyone that tug of war does not necessarily emphasize strength, he has strategies. First of all, the person at the front must be the tallest and mighty, he can calm the enemy in his aura, and he can also give us a sense of security. Second, the person at the end must be the strongest. He can stabilize the team like an anchor. Third, everyone should stand staggered left and right, with their feet parallel and straight. The rope is clamped under the armpit so that the strength can be concentrated. The fourth and most important point. Don't use force for 10 seconds after the start of the game. All people lie back, their chests up, this way I won't be pulled over by the other side for the time being. Hold for 10 seconds, stronger opponents will wonder why. 10 seconds later, the first person on the other side exerted too much force and the soles of their feet were cunning. The weak team pulled desperately, he actually pulled the opposing strong team little by little, this is the power of unity. But the strong teams are all men after all, seeing that he was about to die, suddenly burst into potential, 10 men tried their best to slowly pull the weak team back. This time the weak team panicked. At the critical moment, Wu suddenly yelled, everyone sent 3 steps forward at the same time to make them fall. Sure enough, all the opponents fell, and Lee almost fell. The weak team tried their best to pull the rope back. The 10 men on the opposite side wanted to stand up, but they were dragged along in this way. The strong team was pulled to the edge by the weak team, and all 10 men fell. The rope was cut, and they all fell and died. The Lee team was lucky enough to win, everyone was in shock, only Lee looked at his hands with complicated expressions. This is the first time he kills with his own hands, it's not easy. When they returned to the dormitory, Zhang's team was surprised to win with them. But after the lights are turned off tonight, they will definitely kill people again. The entire team had no time to rest, so they hurriedly tore down the beds and built fortifications. Before the war, Zhang came to taunt Lee, and the two choked at each other. This time Lee said something that made Zhang think deeply. You are the strongest person in the audience, so your men will definitely be anxious to kill you. Probably tonight. Zhang looked at his subconsciously, only to find that everyone is unfamiliar, the signs of fear can no longer be extinguished. So Zhang ordered all his men to rest, everyone was at a loss, but still did not dare to move. Zhang himself did not dare to close his eyes overnight. On this quiet night, he found a strange thing. The doctor was gone, I heard that it's going to the toilet, but there's no reason for more than a few hours. Zhang needs the doctor to tell him what to play in the next game. The more Zhang thought about it, the more panicked he became, and his heart was full of emotions like thousands of ants biting him. Now the doctor is in a secret place, secretly removing the organs of the corpse. It turned out that he had colluded with a few people in red, steal the bodies of dead players, excavate organs by doctors, and then sell them by men in red. In order to protect the shady industrial chain, the man in red will mix information about the next game in the food and pass it on to the doctor. But on this night, the man in red failed to get game information. The doctor had been nervous enough in the first few games. When I heard that there was no notice, I went crazy on the spot. With a scalpel, he stopped a man in red and threatened them to investigate quickly. But the man in red refused to be threatened by him, and the two sides fought. The doctor killed one and was chased by the second to the game room. But here he ran into the person in charge of the game, he ended up killing everyone. Lee went through 3 games here and survived. Everyone has become a friend in need. Lee takes care of the old man everywhere, seeing that he was ill and incontinent, he took off his coat for the old man to use. Wu and Ollie formed a deep friendship, Ollie would rather not eat by himself and leave the food for Wu to eat. A good brother who values love and righteousness is something that any man can't ask for. No one knows what to play in the 4th game. The Reds asked them to enter the field in 2 or 2 teams, everyone guessed it was a team competition, and they all wanted to team up with the strongest person. The strongest person in Lee's mind is his childhood friend Wu. Before he invited Wu first sent an invitation to Ollie. It turns out that Wu values the obedient and powerful Ollie more than his childhood friendship at all. Lee looked at the old man. Although he wanted to take care of him, he didn't want to be eliminated. I can't compete with the old man. More and more people formed a good team, and Zhang formed a team with the most capable subordinates. Kong teamed up with the girl he knew before. Soon, Lee also received a kind invitation from a stranger, but Lee still couldn't twist his conscience and decided to invite the old man to play with him. At the end of the team time, there is only one person in the whole field. That's Miss Beauty, her character is the most ostentatious, but she is reduced to a gas that no one cares about. Why not be ironic? Players are taken to the game square, which is carefully arranged. The old man and Lee lived in this alley when they were young. The referee gave each player 10 marbles and asked them to play games with their companions. Whoever wins all the marbles of his companions wins, everyone is stunned. It turned out that if they wanted to form a team, it was not a 2-person team, but a cannibalism. Lee and the old man, Wu and Ollie, there is also a couple present. I regret that I shouldn't team up with the closest person. At the beginning of the game, those ruthless people started to play first. For example, Zhang lost the first game with his men, Zhang can only give his men the marbles. The fat man giggled.
에이씨, 왜 욕을 하고 그래? 형님이 해주니까 내가 진짜로 네 부하로 보이냐? 개새끼가 죽고 싶나 이거. 오, 어떻게 죽일 건데? 형님은 못 쓴대잖아, 이 비우신 새끼를.
Jang look at the man in red. Once he uses violence, he will be killed. He can only bear it. But then Jang kept losing, and there were only 5 marbles left. Fatty is becoming more and more rampant. Jang is in a hurry and asks the referee to change the game. The game he wanted to talk about was 2 people throwing marbles on the ground. Whoever throws into the hole can take all the marbles on the ground. From the beginning of the game change, Jang's luck has improved. After winning 2 games in a row, he won the fat man's marbles. The fat man was almost scared to death when he saw the man in red drawing his gun. He ran, but didn't run a few steps and was still killed by random shots. Looking at Wu and Ollie again, Ollie has been reluctant to play games for a long time. Wu calmly advised that 2 people would die if they didn't play. Because Ollie doesn't know how to play Korean marbles, Wu also teaches him how to play on the spot, but Wu never thought that his luck is much worse than Ollie. He lost 9 marbles. The dying reality forced Wu's nature. He changed his former gentleness and yelled at Ollie like crazy. But the referee aimed the gun at his head, and Wu calmed down. Wu fell to his knees, begging Ollie to forgive him. He said he had a plan in his mind that would allow both of them to survive. To win marbles from other groups first, you have to observe their situation first. Ollie believed him. He listened to Wu and went to the other team. Before leaving, Wu stopped Ollie and said that 19 marbles could not be put in his pocket casually. He took off his t-shirt, tore off a piece of cloth, and made a lanyard for Ollie. No one noticed. The bag of marbles was dropped in a secret moment. When he returned the dropped bag to Ollie, he deliberately shook it a few times to make the inside hair bang. Ollie just left. Wu immediately gave his bag of marbles to the referee. There were exactly 20 marbles in it. When the loyal Ollie returns to the place, agreed with Wu, but he couldn't find Wu, and he felt that something was not good. When you opened the bag, it was a pile of small stones. It turned out that Wu secretly filled his bag with stones while he was not paying attention, and then dropped the bag. Ollie was counted. He left a tear, and was shot by the referee. Next is Kang's side. She and the girl have no intention of being enemies with each other. The two decided to play only one game to determine the outcome. The two kept chatting before playing. Kang said that she wanted to bring her mother to Korea, and then bring her younger brother to Jeju Island. The strange girl said that she was in a bad family, her father hurt her mother, and she killed her father again. With only 3 minutes left in the game, the two decided to play the pinball game. Whoever throws farther wins. Kang threw it hard, and then it was the girl's turn, who knows that the girl is so light and easy to let the marbles fall on her feet. She wanted Kang to win, and Kang grabbed her and asked her to play hard. The girl smiled and said, "You have a reason to go out." I didn't. Kang could only cry forever, but couldn't say a word anymore. Later when Kang left, she heard the girl yelling his name from behind. Girl crying and thanking because yesterday Kang invited her to play games together, which made her feel that life is not so lonely. She died with a gunshot. In the end, it was Lee's side, and Lee had a problem. Because the old man suddenly became unconscious and didn't play games with Lee, but walking around in the alley, trying to find his past home. Of course Lee didn't want to accompany him to find it, but the old man was just disobedient. And anxiously grabbed the old man and yelled that he wanted to survive. The old man was frightened by him, and agreed to play games with him, and the two of them sat down and started playing. As Lee lost 2 games in a row, he lost 9 marbles to the old man. At this moment, the old man seemed to be confused again. I can't remember whether I just won or lost. So Lee lied to him and tricked the old man's marbles. When the old man had only the last one left, he refused to play again. Lee grabbed him and begged him to be obedient. At this time, the old man made a suggestion. Let's decide the outcome of the game. Lee got angry when he heard that. You only have one, bet everything with me. Is this fair? The old man suddenly looked serious. Then you just cheated me out of the marbles, is it fair? It turned out that he had always been very clear, and he was just observing Lee's behavior, and Lee suddenly felt complacent. The old man gave Lee his last marble to keep him alive. Lee couldn't say a word when he cried. The old man hugged him and told him that everything would be fine. When Lee left the field, a shot was fired. In this way, he personally sent away the people he was supposed to take care of. Players who survived the catastrophe go back to the bedroom but saw beautiful women waiting for them here. It turns out that the people in red didn't kill him because they didn't abandon the weak who were left out. Recalling that the old gentleman should have been the one who was left out in the cold, if Lee hadn't invited him, he wouldn't have to die. There are only 17 game players left, and the prize money has accumulated to 43.9 billion won. That inseparable couple, now only the husband is left. He burst into tears and said that he couldn't play anymore and wanted to apply for interruption of the game. I hope that 8 people present will come forward with him, but no one will come forward.
당신들이 이 안에서 제일 친했던 사람들을 죽였잖아. 저 돈 때문에.
Wu rushed out and yelled at the man. If you regret it, you should have died just now. That night, the man committed suicide. The player is missing one more person and finally reached the 5th level. Before starting, 16 players need to choose numbers from 1 to 16. Immediately someone who was impatient chose number 6 and number 7 first. The next 8, 9, 10, and 11 are also selected. Lee walked to the front number, but hesitated halfway through. Looking back, Wu and Kong both chose the latter, only the last 16 is left. The first or last Lee took the first one and thought for a long time. Suddenly a man suggested that he wanted to take the number 1 because he wanted to be the protagonist of his life. Lee heard him say this and gave him number 1. The 5th level of the game is about to begin. Everyone comes out from a high platform. There are 2 suspended glass bridges in front of them, with a total of 18 rows of glass. In each row of glass, one is ordinary and the other is strengthened. If you step on ordinary glass, it will shatter and fall from a height of 50 meters. You can survive by stepping on tempered glass. When the clock is 16 minutes, the number in front is almost dead. Only the latter numbers may survive. Number 1 took off his shoes and stepped on the edge. His heart was about to jump out of his chest. His feet were shaking so badly. Jang from behind stepped up and told him to hurry up. Or just push him over. Number 1 jumped onto the glass on the left. He guessed right once. The people behind are encouraging him to continue. One calms herself down, jumping on the second piece of glass. Number 1 fell to death. Next it was the second turn, and he stepped on the glass that he didn't guess correctly. Now there are 2 pieces of glass in front of him, one ordinary and one reinforced. He looked at the piece on the left, gritted his teeth, and jumped over. Next is number 3. Number 3 is a math teacher. He counted. There are 15 rows of glass in front, and the probability of a correct guess is 50%. Then the probability of it all guessing right is 1 in 32768. The math teacher laughed suddenly, and then his eyes became fierce. He wants to challenge the probability of fate. Number 3 successfully guessed 3 pieces of glass fell down in the 7th row. Next is number 4, but when number 4 walks to the 4th row, I don't remember whether number 3 is on the left or right. He turned his head and asked number 5, and number 5 said it was on the left. But number 6 is said to be on the right, number 7 is said to be on the left, number 4 is stupid, and it's even messier now. He chose to believe in number 5, because the old lady looked more stable. The number 4 jumped to the left, soon the 5th fell to death. And people lined up one by one. Number 6 is a believer. He knelt down suddenly and began to pray to God. There are only 9 minutes left. He procrastinated in this way, making everyone behind him anxious and angry. Number 7 can't wait, so I jumped up and grabbed no. 6, as he is not as strong as number 6, instead, he was pushed to the front by number 6, smashing the glass in front of him and falling to his death. Number 6 smiled sinisterly, jumped to the 9th row, and then began to pray again. It's the 8th turn. He just pushed the front one. Now he is afraid of pushing him on the 9th. Fortunately, Jang smiled and encouraged him to move on. But he fell to death when he reached the 8th row in the 11th row. It's Jang's turn. There are 6 rows ahead, and his chances of surviving are extremely low. Jang suddenly turned around and yelled at the people behind. No one dares to go. Stones are time-consuming, ready to kill everyone. 10 threatening you not to leave. I will push you. When Jang saw his short stature, he called him. After spending a few minutes in this way, number 10 really didn't dare to move. It's the beauty number 11 who pushed the number 10 over. Jang looked at the beauty. There was no fear in her eyes. Taunt Jang. Tell Jang to get out. Let her go first. When Jang heard it, this was of course a good thing. Although I had grievances with her before, but if she helps trial and error, you can forget it temporarily. I didn't know that the beauty suddenly turned around and hugged Jang tightly. Jang struggled to break free, but the beauty exerted great strength and did not let go of the fight. It turns out that the beauty is here for revenge. In the 3rd level, Jang betrayed her.
나 배신하면 죽는다고 했지.
Jang begged for mercy and hoped that the beauty would give him another chance. But the beauty knows that there are only 0 and countless betrayals. After Jang and the beauty fell to death, another fell to death on the court. There are only 4 people left. There are still 3 rows. Number 13 has been squatting, staring at the front glass. Wu behind him asked him what he was doing. On the 13th, he answered that he has worked in a glass factory for 30 years and knows how to distinguish strengthened glass. Lee asked him why he didn't stand up before. On the 13th, he said that everyone wanted to kill him, so he would not be kind. Sure enough, the next choice of glass is strengthened, and now the 3 people behind are safe. After smoothly passing through the 2 rows, the lights suddenly went black. It seems that the administrator does not want him to see. I turned off the lights deliberately, leaving only the last row, with a 50% probability, which one to choose. Number 13 has not taken his leg. Wu has come behind him after killing someone. There were only less than 10 seconds left, and the 3 of them jumped to the opposite side one after another. When the time is up, all the tempered glass is shattered by a bomb that has been buried in advance. The huge shock wave directly hit the 3 players, and the fragments scratched them all. After returning to the dormitory, Lee grabbed Wu and asked him seriously why he wanted to kill. He finally recognized Wu's true face. An unrighteous person who does nothing to harm others and benefit himself. Wu also stopped pretending to be gentle and confronted Lee tit for tat. When the two were arguing, Kong went into the toilet. We saw a piece of glass inserted in her lower abdomen. She yanked out the glass and tore off her clothes to bandage herself, but it was obvious that he could not last long. The three changed into suits and were taken to a restaurant by the man in red. The man in red served them noble-like food, steak and red wine. Both men were so hungry that they gobbled up. Kong had no appetite and gave up after only a few mouthfuls. One person collected all the tableware, but left a knife for each of them. Obviously, let them use this knife to kill each other later. Kong felt more and more uncomfortable this night, suddenly saw Lee coming and raised the knife to him. Lee told her not to be afraid, she was not here to kill him. It turned out that Lee wanted to join forces with Kong to defeat the evil Wu, evenly split the 45.6 billion bonus to go home, but Kong agreed with Lee, regardless of whether we two survive, we must take care of each other's living relatives. Then Kong told Lee about his brother's information. Suddenly Lee found that Wu was asleep. This was a great opportunity. Stand up and walk over quietly, trying to kill Wu in his sleep. But as soon as he took 2 steps, Kong stopped him. She said, "You are not such a person, don't do this." So Lee put down the knife and looked back. Kong passed out. When he rushed over to check, he found that she had been seriously injured. Lee rushed to the door and called the man in red to save the man. He took a few minutes, the light came on, then the door opened, the man in red appeared, but he didn't come to save people. They carried the coffin, Lee moved suddenly and Kong died. Looking back, Wu was standing next to Kang's bed and he killed her. Lee rushed towards Kong, but could only hold up a lifeless body. Lee cried. No matter how crying, Kong won't wake up. With blood on his head, he picked up the knife on the bed and rushed towards Wu. Wu also raised a knife to stab him, but the game didn't end here. The man in red intervened to stop the violence.